we look at the past, I would hope we can get inspired by looking at the craftsmanship and looking at the details and long to build better because we see beautiful things like this. Okay, so, right, I'm trying to capture at the end of this Victorian period the city, which we can't ignore, is growing up, and then the houses. Now, in this Victorian period, we talked about the Gothic Revival, Italian, Second Empire last time, but look at all these different styles, right? There's stick style, Eastlake, Carpenter Gothic, Queen Anne, Shingle, Romanesque, Colonial Revival, Octagonal, Chateauesque, Italian Revival, Neoclassical. Now, we're not going to look at all of these, but it becomes, it's a little bit overwhelming. If you've ever looked at a Victorian house and like, I'm not sure what style house that is, that's because that's on purpose. It just, and especially if we talk about the Queen Anne style, which this is considered the greatest Queen Anne house in the world, is the Carson Mansion. It was in Eureka, California. He was a lumber dealer. That's over the top, right? But the Queen Anne was asymmetrical. It was a combination of different styles. It's named after Queen Anne, but there's no association decoratively, right? Queen Anne was a queen in England 150 years before this, but there's supposed to be English elements in the Queen Anne, but what you'll see is you'll see there are different, as we go up and some of these looks at these other, it's almost like every little piece is a different piece, and they would borrow and mix and choose. You'll see brick on the bottom, siding in the middle, shingles at the top, all kinds of crazy things. So if you look at these houses and go, I don't know what it is, it's because they borrowed from so many different things, it's very difficult to see. Wraparound porches, towers are very popular during this period. The different textures, second story porches like that are very popular in this time period. This is, kind of a mild Queen Anne compared to the other one, but you see we got siding down here, then it goes to shingles up here. We've got a tower, we've got a second floor roof, we've got a wraparound porch. Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. You get into some eclectic, Persian, onion top things. Again, siding here, shingles here. Sunbursts were kind of an unpopular detail. But it's almost like if we looked at that, we go, that's a little Colonial Revival element. Oh, well, that is a French Chateauesque element, right? All of these different things happening on these Queen Anne houses, and they liked it that way, right? Remember we talked about the industrialization of millwork, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today, but they're doing some of this because they can, right? This is the first time that they can build and do and create all of these crazy spandrels and finials and brackets and all the crazy things that they're doing on these buildings. This is a Queen Anne, but has some stick elements, right? When you see this kind of framing detail where you're seeing almost the timbers coming through there, that's a stick element. But I mean, there are again 3 or 4 different styles of things there. Notice the shingle patterns that goes from fishtail to square to diamond patterns, right? It's just because we can. The shingle style. So the shingle style is a little bit more driven by architects, okay, than plan books. This is McKean Mead and White. This is it's called the Newport Tennis Association. It's the Hall of Fame now, but it was 1890s. This is H.H. Richardson did this one. This is kind of the first shingle style. You'll notice in the shingle style there's heavy forms, okay, and kind of big blocks of building massive things. Oftentimes there's stone at the base of it, but you do see some Victorian elements in there, right? This kind of decorative stuff, but it's just a little bit heavier, a little bit more solid, a little bit more chunky, and most often covered in shingles, right? That's the reason it's called a shingle style, is because there's shingles all over it, as you can see there. This is a McKean Mead and White house, right? Shingles all over it. There is some Victorian decoration and things, but it's a heavy, massive. Typically they weren't painted. Typically they were just left like this. They became very popular in Newport and on the East Coast. They were, when fresh air became something that was we want fresh air because we're healthy and things like that. That's when you have a lot of these coastal towns and things blowing up and getting larger because it was very healthy to live that way. Very important in that shingle style. A couple other shingle houses. This one's painted, but you do see the rock at the bottom and that same kind of form. And then that one a little bit still massive, kind of morphs out and kind of grows out of a form. It's not as crisp and detailed as the other style. And then Romanesque. So it's Richardson Romanesque, right? It happens after he dies. This is a style inspired by that medieval architecture. And realize that it isn't just H.H. Richardson who's inspiring a lot of this. It is all of the travel, and the world's expanding and opening up to so many different things. They're able to see more. And so they see medieval buildings. They see French chateaus. They see these things, and they're inspired by it. So it's not just simply Richardson's thing. It is actually being open to the whole world. They're starting to travel more, and you begin to see these styles and these forms come together. But again, I mean, if you started breaking these little pieces out and looked at the individual elements with the turrets, which are very important, typically on a Romanesque building you'll see these large arches, these heavy arches, but it's because of the scale of these and the size and weight of these materials that it's hard to do a house successfully. Here's the Hopkins County Courthouse, which we've worked on, in the Romanesque style. Dallas County Courthouse is certainly a Old Red museum, which we've worked on, in the Romanesque style. Beautiful building. And then Ellis County Courthouse, which we've worked on. Another beautiful building, right? But you see the medieval elements, you see these heavy arches, that's all part of that Romanesque style. Neoclassical, right? So you begin to see back to kind of those temple forms coming out. It could be Colonial Revival in some respects, but typically this large front porch that goes up like this. Thistle Hill has a little bit of that when its new porch as it grows up like that. This is the Kell House in Wichita Falls, which we're working on, but it's neoclassical with this heavy form. Big porches, side porches, very typical of that style, symmetrical. Chateau S is the Biltmore, Richard Morris Hunt, right? Is kind of that French style, French chateau, became very popular, especially among the rich. Another Chateau-esque style. You see these turrets, these French turrets that go up, very typical of that look.
Also very expensive building.
Yeah. And then Beaux-Arts, we talked about the School of Fine Arts, the School of Beaux-Arts, des Beaux-Arts, okay? It generated a whole style. This is the New York Public Library. Carrie and Hastings, who studied under McKean, Mean and White, they did this then. Has anybody been there, been here? Oh my gosh, go there, next trip. It is unbelievable. It is a cathedral to learning and study and books, and it's just a fabulous, fabulous, beautiful, beautiful building. There's the inside of it. It's been in a bunch of movies. Love this thing. A good book is the precious lifeblood of a master spirit, embalmed and treasured upon purpose to a life beyond life. Yes, yes, learning, books. It's just fabulous. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. So, there's so many different styles here. What I wanted to do is have a little quiz. You will be graded later. And I want to just go through what style is it. How should we do this? Just raise your hand, don't blurt it out, okay? I'll start off this is the Mark Twain house, okay? This is kind of a trick, but because I don't get it, okay? I know what style they say it is, but I don't see it. So, who has a guess? Chris?
Stick style.
It's not stick style.
It's not.
No. I would have probably guessed stick style. They say it's a Gothic revival, okay? Now, here's the problem with this, okay? And I started with this one on purpose because it's confusing, right? This steep pitch could be Gothic, right? That has Gothic form, but there's no barge boards there. There's no real dripping barge boards things that are going on there. There's no hood moldings over the windows. There's no Gothic arches in there, right? I just don't see it. And so that's what they're calling it. I could go stick, I could go Queen Anne, I could go, some of these other different things. And so it's asymmetrical. It's, it has all these just funny things. Mark Twain called it Steamboat Gothic or pudding pie. I mean, it's just like, he had these funny terms for it because he didn't see it either. So it's not clear. So there's no wrong answers, okay? That's the point. I didn't want to intimidate you guys too bad. So the painted ladies in California, right? The very famous 7 painted ladies. Guess? Queen Anne. Queen Anne. Everybody got that one? Isn't this fun? Okay, there's a famous house. This is Frank Lloyd Wright's studio. What style is that? Shingle, yes, that's right. I was actually surprised when I was reading that. And I just Googled Victorian houses, started picking some, so this is not anything else. But there's a shingle style, Frank Lloyd Wright that did that. This is on Martha's Vineyard. This is Oak Bluff. What style are these? You can just blur it out now. No, they're calling it Gothic, okay? They call it Gothic Revival. And I see that in here, right? And this is kind of a Gothic Revival detail in there. But no, they're calling these Gothic Revivals. And I see that. See that little pointed arch there, right? And the hood molding over this one. This one's more strongly Gothic than the other ones, but they're calling those Gothic Revival. This one? Who said that? Did you say that? Second Empire's right. Yeah. You can always tell Second Empire because of the mansard roof. Okay? So if you see the mansard roof, it's typically Second Empire. The problem is that oftentimes Second Empire have a lot of brackets here, which is typically an Italianate feature, but this is Second Empire. Kind of threw a curveball here. Early Victorian. Greek Revival. This is a Greek Revival house from 1820. This is Ithiel Town's house where he had a great library. Okay, this house. Italianate, right? Now there's the little curveball because they got a Second Empire little turret there, right? Kind of throw you a curveball. But this kind of bracketing detail is most typically Italianate. And good Italianate, you'll often see arched windows in there. But that's kind of a typical Italianate. Stick. This is stick style. Now we didn't go over stick, but I told you that the stick had this forms where the timbers come through. Again, this is an adaptation of an English Tudor timbered house, right? Done in a Victorian manner, right? Where instead of having bricks and stuff between the timbers, you're actually having siding going through there. But seeing that kind of form come up like that is typically a stick style house. Gothic, right? So you see this deal here. Again, you got a Second Empire tower, but you've got definitely the Gothic windows, right? And this kind of porch detail. Hard to see those clustered columns there. It's a famous Gothic Revival house. This is folk Victorian, okay? So this would be a vernacular, countryside, a Victorian house. There was probably more detail originally. It's been taken over after time, but it's not strong. But this is why Victorian, and I wanted to do this to have fun. Isn't this fun? Because it's hard to tell, right? And so it's no wonder that you walk up to these Victorian houses and go, what is that? And so it's oftentimes better to know the age of it to help put it into a time frame than it is to be able to look at it from the front. And I get pictures, people send me pictures. I want to know what style my house is. And sometimes it just isn't, right? What? Stick. Yeah, stick again. So we got that framing in there. Kind of typical, right? All right, so that was the last one. Wasn't that fun? Everybody got an A. Good job.